Imagine it's the 1960s. Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, or Nixon is the president. Your dad fought in World War II. You are fighting in Vietnam. But no matter who you are, you're ducking under your desk because you're afraid of a nuclear holocaust. The Cold War was at full swing, and America and Russia were ready to do whatever they had to do to love their children too. The CIA were trying project after project to try and get any information at all on the Kremlin and the Soviet Union. One of their many projects was called Acoustic Kitty. The idea was to train cats to spy on the Kremlin and Soviet embassies. Wire a microphone into its ear, a small transmitter just outside its skull, and a thin wire into its fur. That's the medical way of describing it. What I very deeply prefer is Victor Marchetti's version of the story. He was the executive assistant to the CIA director at the time, and this is how he described it. They slit the cat open, put batteries in him, wired him up, the tail was used as an antenna. They made a monstrosity. It was perhaps an error in hubris that they didn't start thinking twice when the cat would get distracted whenever it started getting hungry. But the whole Cold War was an error in hubris, so they exhausted extra time and money into training the cat to not get bored or distracted. Or hungry. $20 million later, which accounting for inflation is $164 million today, they were ready to grab this pussy and put it in the front lines. There are multiple accounts of what happened next. The cat's first mission was to spy on two men in a park outside a Soviet compound. The cat was released, and then it was hit by a taxi immediately and died instantly. However, this was disputed as recently as 2013 when Robert Wallace, a former CIA director, claimed that the project was abandoned because, and I'm paraphrasing, because you can't train a cat to do shit. The equipment was taken out of the cat was re-sewn, and lived a long and happy life afterwards. Maybe it started working for the Russians! That said, Victor Marchetti's account is again my favorite. He said they were there, sitting in the van, and the cat was dead. Another account seems to suggest that a CIA agent returned to the scene of the crime to scoop up the remains so the Soviets wouldn't get a hold of their audio equipment. Then again, if they just gave it a collar, the Russians probably would have returned it straight to the Americans, so. And in 1967, after a few more failed attempts that have since been redacted, the project was shut down. Here's the official report. Our final examination of trained cats convinced us that the program would not lend itself in a practical sense to our highly specialized needs. And then it goes on to say, we have satisfied ourselves that it is indeed possible. This is in itself a remarkable scientific achievement. Knowing that cats can indeed be trained to move short distances, we see no reason to believe that a cat cannot be similarly trained to approach again. However, the environmental and security factors in using this technique in a real foreign situation force us to conclude that, for our purposes, it would not be practical. They were forced to conclude it, meaning that there was probably someone upstairs who was really crazy about the cat idea and didn't want to see it fail, and that some scientist man in a science lab had to write out this report thinking, oh, Barry's gonna be disappointed. The work done on this problem over the years reflects great credit on the personnel who guided it. You know what? I think that we can agree on that one. I also think it was a good idea for the CIA to stop basing inventions on gadgets seen in Get Smart. However, the entire incident pales next to the 1962 test to see what the effects of LSD would be on a fully grown elephant. They pumped the elephant full of LSD, and then it fell over and died. It was concluded that the elephant seems to be highly sensitive to the effects of LSD.